this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind. He will cross an invisible barrier. He will live with the license of a higher order of being. These words were written by Thoreau in 1854, and they contain a code that each of us can use to live amazing lives that we really, really, truly love living. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, it is my pleasure today to unlock this code for you, to translate what Thoreau was telling us about being in charge of our lives and being deliberate creators. In 1854, you have to remember, we were a very young country. Everyone who lived here was a pioneer. These were extraordinary people who were willing to be brave, willing to risk everything in order to come to this new country and create a new way of life for themselves and to explore unknown places. So everyone was of this cavalier and pioneer spirit. And in Concord, Massachusetts, this was a hotbed of activity during this time for our country. This is, if you'll remember your history lessons, this is where the shot heard around the world was fired. That started the American Revolution. Not even 100 years later, the most intellectual minds in the country, poets and authors and philosophers, would gather here in Concord at the home of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Minds like Nathaniel Hawthorne and the Alcotts, and of course Emerson himself, and Henry David Thoreau. Interestingly enough, at this time, when all these people were gathering at the Emerson home to have these deep intellectual conversations, Thoreau was the handyman. And at this time in history, there was a lot of attention paid to social class, and there was a little awkwardness around the handyman hanging out with the honored guest and these brilliant, celebrated minds. But it soon became very obvious that Thoreau was brilliant in his own way. He was, in fact, incorrigible in his refusal to abide by the traditions of the day and work 6 hours and take 6 days and take 1 day off. What he took from these conversations was the idea to have an experiment with what he called sucking the marrow out of aliveness. And this is where the story of Walden Pond came about. He found a little place on Emerson's land, in fact, about a mile from any other homes, and built his little cabin where he began this experiment that lasted 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. And that's where this awesome, incredible, and famous quote came from. I've given you each a copy of this with some kind of random highlights to keep us on track, but we're going to just deconstruct this a little bit at a time and show you what he meant. So, I've learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one, what he means by if one is we have a choice in this. We don't have to do this. We can live our lives according to conditions, according to circumstances, according to what the rest of the world is saying our lives can be, or we can understand and work with the knowledge that we are the creators of our existence. Most people won't do this. Most people will live according to their conditions. Most people will live 90 years over and over, the same year over and over, and some people will live 90 years. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dream, advances is not meandering, it's not strolling, it's not wandering, it's advancing. Picture an army advancing forward towards something, not taking their time, but really moving in that direction. And confidently, Thoreau means faith. If you have a 3-year vision, you don't necessarily know what you're going to do in year 2, but you know what you can do today, and you know that you can walk to the edge of the light that you can see, and that more light will be revealed to you. Now, this is what he means by advancing confidently. And endeavors to live the life which he has imagined. Endeavors just means try. If you were to look at your life now, from 5 years from now, more than likely you would never have been able to imagine where you were. We can expand on this and make this even bigger and make our dreams even bigger. So endeavoring is just trying, doing what you can with what you have in this moment. To live the life which he has imagined. The universe creates in pictures. So when we create this big dream for ourselves, we need to draw a picture of that that's full of color and life and emotion and vigor, so that the universe can understand what it is that we want and come to our aid and bring us the things that we are imagining. He will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. This just means that things will start to happen for you that you could never have imagined in your wildest dreams. Doors will open, opportunities will arise, ideas will come to you. He will put some things behind, is the next part. It sounds simple, but when you start to think in this larger, more expanded kind of way, you'll start to notice that some of the things you're holding on to no longer serve you. They might be trivial or they might be downright harmful. These are usually patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, but sometimes it could be a place, it could be a thing, it could even be a person. And those things that don't resonate with your new dream for yourself will need to be left behind. So those things are left behind. He passes an invisible boundary. This is my favorite. The invisible boundary is your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is the sum total of all the things that you have thought about yourself and been told about yourself for your entire life. When Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're right, this was what he was talking about, your self-esteem, and this is that invisible boundary. However, if we make the choice and make the decision to think in a different way and to address what our beliefs are about ourselves, we expand the area in which we can grow into and cross that invisible boundary. And then live with the license of a higher order of being. Remember getting your driver's license? You were suddenly free, how suddenly a lot of the rules that used to apply to you don't apply to you anymore. This is the feeling. When you become a deliberate creator, this is the feeling that you have of being free to do whatever it is that you choose. And then the rest of the paragraph has some beautiful poetic things in there, but it winds up by saying, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they belong. Now put the foundation under them. And this code are Thoreau's instructions on how to build that foundation. And I've put that into a formula for you. Dream plus vision plus faith plus action equals the life of your dream. So this just means have a dream, a big, juicy, gorgeous Hollywood dream, and create a big picture of that and a great vision of that, and get in that vision every day, and then take the step that you can today in the direction of your dreams. Start today. Build a foundation for your castle.